Okay guys, Zor here. I'm gonna be taking a look at the Warlock changes. I'm gonna be making some tweaks to my build, but I'm gonna try to be quick about it because I want to take a better look at the powers of the Warlock and how it works. So just quickly going over the build changes that I made. I'm using the helmet that gives increased soul weave. If you do have the one for MTOS that increases the regen of the soul weave, it's better. If you do want to go and use rank capture, you can use it. You're going to save up some consumables that give outgoing healing. You're going to save up the bat soup. If you use this, you can use the critical strike one, either this or the one from the hunt or the one from the demon web pits that you buy. If you use those, you're going to save up the devil's precision. I personally prefer the one that you buy. It gives 5% only because, to be fair, even the Warlock with 3 heal overtimes, even the Bard, even the Cleric, we cannot get 10 stacks, man, properly. We cannot get. The max that I got was 8 and was just for a second. So I don't like this helmet at all. You're better off using something more, stable, like the rank character, like the 5% critical strike one that you get from the Master Demon Weapons. So for the chest piece, this is mandatory, guys. This is the one that gives the debuff. You just need to stay close to the enemy. This is just as strong as both the artifact set and the grace together. For the arms, we use the ones that we get from the Master Demon Weapons. For the weapons, I'm using the perfect ones for the high iron level damage increase that increases our heals and the 5% critical strike, critical severity bonus. For the boots, I'm using the one that gives outgoing healing that you get from the Master Demon Weapons. Artifact set, mandatory is to use the Halaster because it's one of the strongest one and no DPS is going to use it. The other, you use whatever you want, and of course, you want to be using the one to match the artifact set that you have. For the artifact set, I'm using the Apocalypse. If you have the Megalith or the Vistani, you can change my enemies. Just have in mind that if the DPS is using the Megalith, it's your job to go back to the Apocalypse because the DPS is not going to go down in iron level because it's going to reduce its damage, and yeah, he doesn't gonna like. Another thing, the Vistani does not stack anymore and does not have a exploited mechanic with the mirage weapons anymore. So we're not gonna see DPS running Vistani anymore. So guess what? It falls upon you and the tank to run Apocalypse and Vistani. However, to proc the Apocalypse, you need critical hits. Therefore, the tank will not run the Apocalypse because it doesn't build for crit. So it's not going to be proccing that much. So as a Warlock especially, we can maintain the stacks of the Apocalypse. So we're going to run the Apocalypse. For the rings, I'm using the Grace for the debuff. I'm using the Opal Ring, although I'm not certain if this goes beyond the cap. I have to do some tests on those. I couldn't find a proper way to do it here on the PlayStation, but I'm probably gonna make a video on that as well. I've always recommended this because Aragon did the test, but that was before the Warlock changes and the healing changes whatsoever. So yeah, I'm gonna be making a video to test this if I find a way to properly do it on the PlayStation. For the shirt, I'm using the outgoing healing one, and the trousers, I'm using the power and the defense one. The enchantments, I'm using 2 Cabal, 1 Jade, 1 Garnet on the offense, and the utility is 1 Jade. Defense, use whatever you have. And the combat, we have the Mythical Lightning Flash for the critical strike. Bonus, I'm using the recharge speed. You can change for the movement speed. You can use the action point. It's up to you. I'm not going to go over powers now. I'm going to let this to the end. For the boons, we all know how to go with the boons, right? So you go for power, critical strike, you use your offensive stats first. The ones that matter, of course, go defensive. I don't go with the I usually go for less for the maximum hit points. I go with movement speed. The lingering medicine is great. For the tier 5, I go with Forte, and I'll go in healing. And the master boon, I use the one to help the tank, which is Blast Resilience. For the companions, Portobello is mandatory on this build because I need the power. It is still helpful to the DPSs as well, because power helps them as well, and they give 3.5 combat advantage. So it's still great. The equipment, I'm using 2 tarnished, and I'm using 1 polished. Ideally, you want to have 3 polished, or if you're even more hardcore than me, you can go with a single stat outgoing healing once. It should be better, but again, you're going to have to farm a lot of a Master Temple of the Spider to get those. For the enhancement, I need to use the Invigorate. I cannot go for the debuff, unfortunately, because I'm already doing so many debuffs on the build. So yeah, I mean, if you're running easy content, you can do it, no problem. But I feel like I'm gonna be losing a lot of heals if I don't use this on a hardcore, on Master Demon Weapons or the trials on everything. For the companion bonuses, I'm using the Quickling, Golden Bullet, Baby Polar Bear. Ideally, you want something that gives outgoing healing and another useful, or at least more useful than defense. You unfortunately don't have many options when it comes to outgoing healing companions. So yeah, the best option we have is outgoing healing and Forte, which I will be getting as soon as the Cunning Mimic comes back to the Zen store. I'm using the Raptor, and I'm using the Kenko Archer. For the mouse, you gotta have the Eclipse, you gotta have the Swarm, you gotta have the Pegasus, and the T-Rex. Ideally, you gotta have the Mystic Aura, you gotta have the Runic Aura, and you gotta have the Pack Jacket, guys. You gotta have at least 2 of those, just in case the tank is using the same thing as you. You can swap around. For the bonuses, I'm using Shepherd Devotion, Meadows Covenant, Gladiator's Guild, Magistrate Expansions, and Lionheart's Perseverance. Magistrate Expansions, I say this every time, it procs on the critical heals, so whenever it's not on the cooldown, it's up. It's up all the time. It's a defensive bonus to everybody on the party. For the colors, I'm using the outgoing healing, the rough ID, I'm using the movement speed, and the critical severity and encounter power. The ones that matter are the outgoing healing and the critical severity one. The rest is up to you. The first thing that has changed was the at will that gives the barrier. Now it's much stronger, and we're gonna be using this to protect the tank. We probably thought about the Master Demon Pits when they're doing this, because we need to protect the tank and all the bosses there. First boss actually hits hard. Second boss has the Supernova and the Orcus, and the last one has the Hypo. So yeah, I'm gonna be using that a lot, and we're gonna let go of the Soul Reconstruction. We're gonna be using Infernal Sanction and the Elder's Blast for proccing the debuffs. As a main heal, we're gonna use the brand new Vampiric Embrace, which is a healing word for the Warlock. Funny thing, right? People are talking shit about the Cleric, but every time we work a healer, we kind of look at the powers of the Cleric. But I digress. We're gonna be using the Vampiric Embrace right now for the main heal. As a secondary heal, you can use Revitalize to heal the DPS to get damage. And the third power is up to you guys. You can use Pillar of Power, you can use the Warlock's Bargain, you can use the Wraith Shadow to reduce the target's damage, you can use Blade of Vanquished Armies to protect someone as well. Just be careful if you use the Warlock's Bargain, because you're gonna lose the Life Spark. If you lose the Life Spark, you're not gonna get heals from the Inspirit, which is not a big deal, but most importantly, you're not gonna be able to cast the Soul Barrier. So just have that in mind. If you want to use the Warlock's Bargain, don't use it when you know you're gonna need the Soul Barrier, because you're not gonna be able to cast it. For the dailies, I'm gonna be using the Soul Barrier and the Soul Pact as always. This one being the one that we use when people are grouped up, and this one is gonna be the one that we're gonna use when people are spread out. This is just a damage resistance one and a heal. This is more like a heal over time thing. So for the axe phase, for example, this is way better than this one. People are gonna stay together and gonna get healed, gonna get shield every time they get healed, and we have the mitigation going for it. But if you just did the mitigation, yeah, you can use the Soul Pact, and people don't need to be together. For the class feature, I really hoped they would change some of this, but they didn't. So we're gonna be using Shadow Walk whenever we are in a dungeon, together with the Soulbound, and if we are in a trial with other healers, we're gonna use Borrowed Spirit for more Soul Wave. For defeats, the first one we didn't change. We used the Essence of Power to get more regen when we attack. The second one I did change to get more regen whenever I fall below 30. So the way it works, if I do cast a bunch of heals here, just so you guys know, whenever I fall below 30, I'm gonna get regen. The life spark, we're gonna start regening your Soul Wave. This does not block you from using the daily. I'm gonna show you here. The only thing that's gonna happen is that the life spark will stop regen, and we use the daily. So have that in mind as well. We're not gonna use the focus spark because we're not using the soul reconstruction. That's why I put this one. For the third one, that's a no-brainer. Soul Tact to get more regen from the brink, to get more heals when people are dying, and Fate Pact to get that heal over time. All the heal over time we get are the same, 12 seconds, 250 magnitude, 12 seconds. No, actually it's 200 heal magnitude and revitalize, and the Soul Storm is 250. They last the same amount. So now for the more detailed guide of this video, guys. I did some tests, and if you don't know how heal over time works in the Neverwinter, they usually have a mechanic that we call snapshot. So whenever I cast a heal, it will take a picture of my stats and use it for the whole duration of the power. So this means if I get a buff during the uptime of the power, I have to recast my power to benefit from it. So I test this on all the powers, the Warlock powers, and it is indeed the fact that Vampiric Embrace does a snapshot, Revitalize does a snapshot, Soulstorm does a snapshot. So, but Soulstorm is a little different though. I'm gonna show you here. Soulstorm actually refreshes itself every now and then. If you guys see the Soulstorm duration, that is gonna go up to 12, like 2 or 3 times there. So whenever it does that, it refreshes again. So it does snapshots again. So all the power is a snapshot, but Soulstorm kind of refreshes itself. Just have that in mind, especially if you have one of those builds that have a lot of stacks, a lot of buffs, like if you're using, like, for example, the helmet that gives critical strike or critical severity, if you're using the one that gives power, if you're using the gloves that give power, if you're using the chest piece that gives critical strike and critical severity, just have that in mind. If you want to benefit from that, don't let the buffs expire and cast your power again. Otherwise, you're not going to benefit from it. Another thing that I wanted to discuss is the Pillar of Power, guys. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm new to Warlock, but whenever I use this, I thought, well, maybe my heals are increasing by 5%, Because if you take a look at to all the buffs, you're gonna get increased damage by 5%. You're gonna reduce the damage taken by 5%. So none of those buffs are actually bound to stats. So I would think the outgoing healing that we get is going above the cap, but that's not the case, guys. And I'm gonna be showing to you guys now. I just have to change my build around a little bit to not have fluctuations here. I'm gonna cap my outgoing healing. I'm gonna change this rank for the glowing one. I'm gonna put the Tiamat set. I'm also gonna change the companion for the golden bullet, just cause. Let's check the outgoing healing. We have 9% outgoing healing, which is fine. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna see, we're gonna heal them for 240.8, and the heal over time. Oh, let me take off my overloads as well. Oh shit, what's going on now? Yeah. Let me see if I didn't proc. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good to go. So I'm gonna cast it. We got 240.8, 100.3. So I did crit. Now I'm gonna use the Pillar of Power to see if that increases the outgoing healing above the cap. 240.8, it does not go above the cap for the initial heal, and it does not go above the cap for the heal over time, which is a shame. Yeah, I don't know if you guys knew that, but yeah, I've always used this to increase my outgoing healing. So if you they only use this if you need the outgoing healing, you can actually use that to get 5% more outgoing healing. If you have it capped, don't use it for the outgoing healing at least. So let's check the Warlock's bargain. The Warlock's bargain is really good right now, man. I really like that we get some a chunk of Soulweaver, and we get some increased outgoing healing. If you know the cleric's power, you might be thinking this works like the exaltation for the cleric. The exaltation increases the outgoing healing by 20%, and it does go over the cap. However, our Warlock's bargain does not go over the cap, which is, I don't know if it's intended or not, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna do again 240.8, just to show you guys it's the same 100.3. I'm gonna cast the Warlock's bargain and do it again, and we're not gonna increase. 240.8, no changes. 100.3. So yeah, it's a shame it does not go over the cap. I don't know why. I don't know why. I would expect this to go, but hey. If you need 10% outgoing healing, you can use this. If you, for example, if you don't have the golden bullet, if you don't have the cap yet, you can use that. It's still gonna be fine, because it does indeed increase the. It does indeed increase the stats themselves. I'm gonna take off the gear so you guys can see. I'm gonna put my gear here, my old gear. Let me take that off. Let's see if I check my outgoing healing without the buffs. I have 83.5. If I do the Warlock's bargain, I'm gonna cap it. I mean, it gets me 10%. So if you need that to cap it, you can use it. I'll put the portobello again. So that's what I wanted to show you guys. Oh, I forgot to tell you as well that the daily power does not actually snapshots for some reason. Although it kind of has a heal over time, it does not snapshots. It takes into consideration the stats they'll have, the stats that you have the moment that you receive the heal. So yeah, the encounters all snapshot, knowing that the Soulstorm does refresh itself 2 times, but the daily does not snapshots. So yeah, I'm gonna put the test that I made to found those results. And yeah, thanks for guys for watching, man.
Okay guys, the strategy here is to use the Vampiric Embrace once, get the number of the critical hit, then hop back in, use the Watermelon Sorbet during the uptime, see if it changes. So if you see there, I got 87k as the heal over time. I'm gonna hop back in, cast the Vampiric Embrace again, use the Watermelon Sorbet to increase the power, therefore my heal should be increasing if the Vampiric Embrace does not snapshot. But it does a snapshot, as you see, I still get 87. And to confirm that, I'm gonna hop back in and cast the Vampiric Embrace again to see if the value actually changes. It should change because I got 5% more power, so yeah. As you will see, I just confirmed, it does snapshots. I'm gonna cast it again, I got 91. So yeah, it is snapshotting the Vampiric Embrace. Okay, now we're gonna be testing the Revitalize. And this strategy is the same. It was a little bit hard because I was not critting. Yeah, let's see. The first one that I got was a 95k critical hit from Revitalize. And so the strategy was the same. I had to use the Watermelon Sorbet there. So you see, I got 95k again. After casting, I used the Watermelon Sorbet, did not change. Yeah. And after that, I stood there for a while, trying to get a critical hit again. As you guys will see. I don't know if you guys know, but another thing about the heal overtimes is that if you do critical hit on the initial heal, all the heal overtimes will be critical for the whole duration. So that's what's happening here. I'm not critiquing, I'm not getting the critical hit on the Revitalize. Therefore, I'm not getting the critical hit on the heal overtimes. That's why it took me a while to get it. That's another good thing to learn. That puts a lot of importance. That gives a lot of importance to the critical chance stat. So see, I tried it again, no success. I was not getting the critical hits. I only had the critical hits to compare this with. See there, I got 97, up from 95k. So yeah, it does indeed snapshots. Okay guys, so now we're testing the Soulstorm, and this is a little different because as I told you, the Soulstorm actually refreshes itself. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna use the companion enhancement to give me outgoing healing during the uptime of the power, so we guys can see if it changes or not. And you'll see, just like I said in the video, whenever it refreshes it, if I got a new buff, it will refresh the heal over time as well. It will snapshot again. So the first, for the first Soulstorm here, I'm using the acute senses, so I don't have the buff on. You see the values. You see the values of the refresh is 140. Whenever you see a 140, 100 or more, the Soulstorm is actually refreshing, and those 70 and 50s are the heal over time. Yeah, the refresh heal is the initial heal, and yeah, it's stronger than the heal over time. So I'm gonna put the companion enhancement now, and try it again. So I got 140 there. I didn't get the buff. You will see the buff in the bar there. I didn't get the buff, so nothing happened there. I got the buff now. You see, but it didn't change the values. So it is indeed snapshotting. I'm gonna wait for the buff to go out. I'm gonna cast it again. See if I get the buff while the Soulstorm's up. I got the buff. So all the heals are increased. It just refreshed it there, and all the heal over times are refreshed as well. So that's how it works. If it stays up, if the Soulstorm is up, and refreshes it, and it gets the buff if you have any. So this is the last test. This is the Soulweaver. He does not snapshot, guys. If I get the buff there, the values will change, as we'll see. And yeah, guys, that was it about the testings. I really hoped it was helpful. I was expecting at least the outgoing healing buffs to go over the cap, but yeah, it didn't go that well. I don't know if it's intended or not. So if you stay to the end, thanks for watching. And if you heard a snore in the video, it was my dog. Okay, guys, thank you, guys. See you later.